Today's date is June 15th, 2026. Call the meeting to order. The public hearing before the Sawyer County Zoning Board of Appeals is hereby called to order at 5 p.m. in Sawyer County Courthouse in Hayward. Present on behalf of the Board of Appeals, Gerber, Rusk, Kelsey, Schabeck, and Bassett. Here representing from the zoning office, Kozlowski Marks, and also present Attorney Duffy. Those persons desiring to give pertinent testimony will be afforded the opportunity to do so. As recognized by the chairman, that person will clearly state their full name before giving testimony. Each hearing will follow this order: reading of the application, submission of the file to the board, applicant's statement and presentation of evidence, testimony of those in support of the application, statements from persons in objection to the application, rebuttal as permitted by the board, and decision by the board. Orderly procedure requires that each side shall proceed without interruption by the other. All testimony will be addressed to the board and there will be no questions or arguments. Any persons aggrieved by the decision, the board may appeal the decision to the circuit court within 30 days of the date following the board's decision letter. The day following the signing of the board's decision letter is the first day of the 30-day appeal filing period. This public hearing was published as a Class 2 notice in accordance with Chapter 985, Sawyer, Wisconsin statutes, and Sawyer County Record and Sawyer County Gazette on May 27th and June 3rd. The public hearing will follow this order: approval of minutes, variance applications, new business, and adjournment. Did everyone receive a copy of the minutes of the March 4th, 24th meeting? Okay, any additions, corrections, changes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve them as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second by Kelsey.
Is it on?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion as presented signify saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right.
We have one variance application this evening. This is a public hearing in the town of Bass Lake, variance number 26-001. Because I'm getting the feedback now, you have to turn off your mics. Thank you. Owner Michael and Marnie. And then Mazudis, thank you. This is part of Coudray Park, Lot 4, tax ID 867, parcel 002124000400. It is 2.417 total acres, zoned residential recreational 1. Application is for a variance to request relief as a shorter setback to a wetland delineation line on the lake side of the home and relief for garage eaves to a wetland setback along the property line. To help support the approval, the non-conforming setback of the existing home and garage will be improved. The existing house footprint to the wetland setback line will be improved from 20 feet 7 inches to 33.2 feet, which would be for a 496 square foot improvement. The existing garage footprint property line setback improved from 14 foot 8 inches to 27 feet 8 inches, and this would be a 576 square foot improvement. The new home area relief requested from the 40 feet to 23 feet 7 inches from a wetland delineation line, and the garage requesting a 24-inch relief, which would be then a 38-foot setback from a wetland delineation line. The cumulative total above is a net improvement in non-conforming setbacks of 590 square feet. Variance is requested as the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances Appendix B, Section 6.1, Parent 2, would require the prior granting of a variance for any structure closer than 40 feet to a non-navigable wetland. The applicant is requesting 448 square feet at the point of 23 feet 7 inches from a wetland and 34 square feet at the point of 38 feet from a wetland. As part of my staff report, this one was a little bit difficult to write up as such. So I would like you to turn to the staff report as well as some of the maps included as part of the staff report. Again, there was an on-site inspection conducted by myself on September 11th. At that time, on-site buildable area was determined on-site of where the property owner could replace existing structures within existing footprints and expansion of those areas to meet the 40-foot wetland setback. This inspection report is included within the additional maps within your packet as part of this staff report. After the inspection report was conducted, the current applicant contracted with a building consultant firm to look at other potential ideas. The variances now being presented would remove portions of the existing dwelling and garage that are within the 40-foot wetland setback, and then request for a lesser amount in a new footprint that would still be within the 40-foot wetland setback, thus requiring the variance. The new additional square footage calculations have been obtained from an architect on the project. The current proposal, again, would remove 550 square feet of the existing house and deck area between 20 feet 7 inches to 33 feet 2 inches within the wetland setback, but then request 448 square feet of new house footprint in an area that would be 23 feet 7 inches from the wetland. Furthermore, it would remove 550 square feet of an existing garage area that is 14 feet 8 inches from a wetland and request placement of a new garage area outside of the existing footprint at a distance of 38 feet to the wetland setback. All in all, 1,096 square feet of existing non-conforming wetland setback would be removed, and a total of 482 square feet of a new footprint within the 40-foot wetland setback is being proposed. This would result in a net reduction of 614 square feet. While there is other buildable area beyond the 40-foot wetland setback on this property, it is extremely difficult from a design standpoint to try and tie the existing non-compliant footprint areas with compliant areas. I would like to kind of showcase some of the maps as part of my introduction to this. And board members, please keep in mind, through any of the potential decision-making processes, you can also use that staff report for reasons of approval or reasons of denial. So specifically looking and showcasing the mapping, I think the best one to showcase could probably be this one because this is probably the only one you can read. It's up on the screen, but it's still hard to see. At least it is color coded here for you. So the dotted line that runs around the parameter here. Oh, okay. And the dotted line that runs around the parameter here is the buildable area, that meeting the 40-foot wetland setback, so that you can see that dotted line there.
Can you follow the dotted line with your cursor?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So the dotted line is the 40-foot buildable area. These gray shaded areas that you see off to the side are the existing structures that are currently on the property. There's an existing house and an existing garage. By ordinance, someone could still replace those structures within the existing footprint. They're existing non-conforming. So we would never take that away, but we would say if you're expanding outside of that area and you're within the 40-foot wetland setback, then you need a variance. So the gray area that you see over here is part of the house, and that is actually going to be removed. So the gray area is removal of an existing structure and to be basically just replaced with yard area. So they're reducing the wetland setback there. The hashed line here is the proposed new build. The red shaded areas is what is requiring the variance. It is footprint expansion that is within the 40-foot wetland setback. So again, the gray areas are being removed. This portion of the existing house would be measured at 23 feet 7 inches to the delineated wetland boundary. And then we have a small little area over here for the proposed garage. And it would actually just be the eaves of the garage that are going to be 38 feet to the other wetland boundary on the side lot line. So that's kind of my introduction. I'm sure Mike can explain more. He has an enlarged map there as well. By action of the town board, motion was approved. Marshall Savitsky, supervisor, Bon Sutton, supervisor, Jim Evans, supervisor, Don Adams, supervisor. Granting of a variance would not be contrary to public interest and would be in compliance with the spirit and the intent of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance and the Town of Bass Lake Comprehensive Plan. The impacts of construction are being minimized by mitigation. A minimal relaxation of the code is being granted. The circumstances are beyond the control of the applicant and are unique to the property, not the applicant. Very little or no buildable area exists. The buildable area lot is very narrow. Variance is approved with the following conditions. All other required setbacks must be complied with. All permits must be obtained, including land use, building, and sanitary. All other code requirements must be complied with. It is the responsibility of the builder and landowner to protect the neighboring lots, lakes, and wetlands during construction. Rain gardens at all downspouts. Signed, Tammy Brown, Town Clerk. There was 15 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. What's that? Yeah, 15 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. No additional comments were received. I did have 2 conversations via email with people that were sent these letters. And ultimately, they just needed additional clarification because the wording of this one is difficult to try to explain the circumstance of this. So they were sent additional packets, the full packet of information. We would generally not send out a full packet to all 15 adjacent property owners. But those 2 that asked for additional clarification and information did not provide additional comments after they received the full packet. That is all. Enough.
Yes. Okay. All right, do you have any question of the office before we ask the applicant to come and make a statement?
Did the DNR have to weigh in on this one?
Mike.
So wetland setbacks and the 40-foot wetland setback is not a setback that is controlled by the DNR. They look at the navigable water setbacks. And if someone was requesting a reduced water setback, then yes, we would send those comments to the DNR. And we have a couple of those coming up in the following months for you. But for this one specifically, again, certain counties have 40 feet, some counties have 20 feet, some counties have 0 feet. And the DNR doesn't care as long as you're not directly impacting the wetlands with fill or structure in the wetland boundary.
I have a question for Jay. So when I looked, I didn't see any land use permit was ever pulled for this particular building structure. And I just want some clarification on how does that work regarding the ordinance if there's no variance for it being, within the setback to the wetlands existing, and there was no land use permit.
Yeah, so we would generally chalk those up as existing non-conforming. And maybe the owner of the applicant can speak more to that, but when I went out and viewed the property, I would assume this structure was placed probably somewhere back in the 60s, pre-zoning. So there would be no permits required because we didn't have a zoning department at that point. And that's what establishes an existing non-conforming. These structures were here before Sawyer County zoning would require that permits are taken out for structures.
Okay, and then in 2019, there was an application for a sanitary permit to replace the holding tank. Would that have flagged or triggered trying to get a land use permit?
No, I'm going to assume they had some type of failing sewer system at that point. And in 2019, they did replace it with a holding tank on this lot. And I believe the owner is also looking at a potential mound site, is that correct? Or a relocation of the holding tank? Yeah, but no, having a new sanitary permit doesn't trigger any of the non-conforming aspects with land use permits for the buildings.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Is the applicant here or someone to speak on his behalf?
Yes.
Identify yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Mike Mazzutis. I'm the owner of the property in question. We've been owners since October of 25. And the existing structure was built in the 1980s, according to the previous owner. But first and foremost, I'm representing myself and my wife as the current owner of the property. Thank you for your consideration for this request. Jay, thank you for walking through all that. There's a lot of information here. I do have large printouts of pictures and the site plan, if it's helpful to see something a little bit larger, because it is not necessarily easy to interpret on that form. But first and foremost, the property has an unusual wetland configuration, and it creates an unusually constrained and irregular setback and buildable envelope. The variance request reflects the minimum relief necessary to address these physical limitations, and importantly, results in significant improvement in the existing nonconformities. We believe that the request satisfies the variance standards, protects the public interest, and improves the overall property's conformity. So we respectfully ask for your approval. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I visited the property just on my way up here, and fortunately ran into Mike while there, so I got a bird's eye view on the tour. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's 3 structures on the property, and 2 of the 3 are being completely removed. Is that correct?
So there's 3 existing structures, the home and garage, which Jay addressed. There's also a shed there, a 10 by 11 shed, approximately 10 by 11. We do want to keep that footprint. It's an existing non-conforming structure right now, but we want to keep that footprint and rebuild it. We just want to change, part of the variance request is also to change the orientation a little bit. That shed is aligned to the property line. The home is aligned to the lake shore. We want to maintain the lake shore alignment. So not asking for additional size, just changing the alignment by a couple of feet. So replace the shed, existing footprint, and then condense or pull back from the property lines the existing structures and rebuild the new structure with the limited relief being requested.
So the existing house and the existing 2-car garage are total rebuilds?
Correct.
Okay. Jay, replacing that, what did you say, 10 by 12 shed?
10 by 11.
10 by 11 shed?
Without the eaves.
Is that doable, permittable?
Yeah, so it would have to be replaced in the existing footprint. I mean, if you want to change the different door configuration, that's fine, but if you start shifting the orientation, you may have to go smaller than 10 by 11, you might have to go 10 by 10, just so that, again, you can fit within the existing footprint, because that was not included as part of this variance. And we can look additionally as to how that might work out, but because that is an existing non-conforming structure, it's only allowed replacement within the existing footprint.
Okay. I thought that was in the request.
Thanks. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
I'm just going to say I took the time to consult with a couple of people who are really familiar with the area. We all remember Mark Olson. His in-laws live directly next door to the subject property. And in looking and in reading this and in looking at it, I already pretty much had my mind made up, you know, and I'm usually the one that says, no, if there's an existing place or there's room for they can build it, that's what they got to do. But this really makes a lot of sense to do this. Mark's words were, this is an absolute no-brainer. Look at what is all out here down the way. And we did. We looked at some of the other ones as well, but I think it's an excellent solution, gaining being further away from the water, and obviously a lot of thought went into this. And I visited the site right after it had just been pouring rain. I mean, pouring rain. And then the sun came out while we were there, and there was no water standing anywhere, where all the delineation flags, and holy cow, there was a lot of them. But there was no standing water anywhere to be seen, and it had poured pretty good. So, and the history, I guess, is all filled, it all was basically a wetland area way back when. But as Jay said, there was no zoning at that point, and everyone just brought in all the fill they needed to put their houses in. This particular lot just didn't have as much fill in it brought in as the other ones did. So those were my thoughts.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah. So I don't agree with the applicant's statement in the document that we received regarding the hardship of not having an attached garage or not having a one-story living. As that, to me, that seems more like a personal hardship than something attributed to the property. But I do see the hardship as being just the placement of these wetlands and the very limited footprint for buildable area. But I suppose a question for you, Mr. Chair, the fact that it's in the document that way, would that set any kind of a precedent that we don't want to set?
I don't believe so.
Okay. That was really my primary concern. I don't want people thinking that if they don't have an attached garage, they can get a variance.
I don't see that as an issue, and if someone thinks that and brings that application to us, we'll look at those circumstances as presented. This is not setting a precedent, in my
Great.
opinion.
Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, it said in the paperwork that the garage was connected to the house for the proposal. And does any part of that garage go within that 40 feet of the wetlands? For non-conforming, in other words?
Yes. So 24 inches of the eave of the proposed attached garage would be located 38 feet to the wetland setback and needing the 40-foot setback.
So
There
you're
is a
building-
portion of, I'm assuming that's a screen porch that comes off of that end of the house that's going in the existing footprint of the existing garage. So a portion of the existing garage's footprint is going to be used by a proposed screen porch highlighted in green up on the map. And then that sliver of red for the eve line of the proposed new attached garage.
So the new construction on the garage on the one end of the house is not gonna be non-conforming?
Just the portion of the rebuilt in the existing footprint and that 24 inches of the eve.
Okay.
But the net effect is approximately 500 feet less non-conforming? Is that a fair assessment?
600 something.
600?
Yeah, 614 square feet of reduction of existing footprint within the wetland setback. He's removing a net total of 614 feet within 40 feet of the wetland setback.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else have any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. I have to ask, is there anyone else to speak on behalf of the application? Hearing none, is there anyone to speak in opposition to the application? Hearing none, discussion by the board.
I have one question that I just thought of. You offered some placards with some maps. Are they just different, larger versions of what we already have?
Larger versions.
Okay.
And pictures.
All right, thank you. I'm not so concerned about the reduced setback on the front to the wetland area, because wetland is wetland. We're still over 75 feet back from the high water mark of the lake. That's the critical thing in my mind. The net gain all the way around these improvements, to me, is the most positive thing that this offers.
The fact that we heard about gutters and rain gardens was a positive also.
Yeah, and I think if there's an approval that we should incorporate that.
I agree. Jim, any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Ginny? No? Heard from Steve and, what's your name?
I think one of the important things to note here too, I mean, you board members driving in, you probably didn't even realize that some of that stuff was actually delineated as wetlands. Maybe I'm wrong, but
If there hadn't been flags there, I
Right.
would
And this was something that was pinged up as part of the transaction of the sale to the current owner, where our mapping, we looked at, this is kind of a rendering of what we call the surface water data viewer. It's the state DNR site where they show delineated wetlands in the state. And this is kind of what pings up. This green overlay is kind of like, yeah, the state recognizes that there's delineated wetlands. I would concur with Laura that, yeah, or Ginny, that, this stuff was filled back in the 40s, 50s, who knows when. And this lot just didn't bring in as much fill as some of the other ones, and they were stuck with some of these weirder kind of wetlands. And it's the same on the other side of the road for the applicant as well, where there's some challenging wetlands that other lots might not have. So it's certainly unique in that aspect. So.
In the packet that I received, there wasn't any elevations of what the new construction was going to look like. And it's easy to see what we got, but I'd always like to see what we're going to get. But I don't know that we can delay based on that. Because it'll have to be within the applied for footprint. So. All right, is there any further discussion? Does anyone care to make a motion either for or against the application as presented?
I will make a motion.
Include gutters and gardens. Include gutters as gardens.
Okay.
Your voice.
I'm on.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry. I couldn't see the light.
I make a motion to approve the application as presented, and also to be sure that it is included rain gardens and downspouts wherever as determined, where applicable as determined.
By zoning, or can we?
By zoning.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Second by Jenny. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Let the record reflect an approval of a vote of 5-0. Findings of fact.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of run with what Town of Bass Lake put forth, because I thought that was pretty inclusive. They provided for the impacts of construction. All of those things were as an attachment to their approval. There is very little or no buildable existing area on the property. Required setbacks must be complied with, as we have already outlined. And this is a minimal relaxation of the code being granted. As far as hardship, there really is no noticeable hardship to the applicant. The hardship comes with the configuration of the property.
Okay. That'll cover it. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Well, no, I have a couple of questions under new business. What's the date of the July meeting?
21st.
Thank you, Mike. The office will walk you through the application process.
21st
Okay.
of July. Two? Three?
Three?
cases in July, 2 in August.
Okay.
And one of the ones in August is a zoning committee appeal.
Okay. Those are so fun. Speaking of, that was my other question. What's the status? Is it the Johnson appeal on Lake Hayward?
I've not heard. Have you heard anything lately on Johnson's?
There's a briefing schedule. Johnson's brief is due within 60 days of, I think it was due in July. I have a 30-day response, and then 15-day to respond to that, and then the judge makes a decision. So we're in briefing right now.
So there's not going to be a trial per se?
No, just based on the facts.
So none of us will
There'll be
be,
a little oral argument probably at the end of the briefs. But
none of us will be called in to testify or, okay, so,
whether they have a transcript and whatever. I think it was a good decision.
okay. And then the August one is an appeal, you say?
Yeah, so it's a zoning committee appeal of a case, no, it'd be August, the zoning committee appeal.
Okay, I got it mixed up, sorry, I've got lots of cases.
The zoning committee appeal was for a conditional use permit that was denied last month for Oak Shores, KDML LLC. They wanted to operate a bar within an existing pole shed, and it was determined by zoning committee that that use within that detached accessory structure would now render it as a primary use, and they do not meet the required setback distance from the property line for a primary structure. So zoning committee denied the conditional use permit. They are appealing that decision.
Basis for the appeal, what they filled out, they think it,
Yeah, we just got it 2 days ago.
okay.
All right, any other new business?
But they will probably have legal, as of today, I believe Rebecca Roker will be acting as legal for zoning committee. And then the board will have your own legal, so, bunch of
All right.
attorneys.
Okay. Go Brewers.
Yes.
Yeah.